Welcome back to Catalan, guys. Today we are discussing the brand new blue card that is coming soon to professional football and grassroots football in the next couple of years. We're going to be looking at the pros and cons, the reasons why it's been introduced, and most importantly, how it's going to affect the game at the grassroots level. So first of all, what is the blue card? So this is going to be a card in addition to the yellow card and the red card that are typically used in football, and the blue card is going to mean a sin bin for any player that's giving it for 10 minutes. That means 10 minutes off the pitch, but that player will be allowed to return to the pitch, unlike a red card. It's different to a yellow card in that when you're giving it, you do have to leave the pitch, whereas a yellow card is more of a caution where the player is allowed to stay on the pitch. The main reason for this being introduced is for two different issues. The first issue is going to be cynical fouls. That's fouls that prevent a counter-attack, fouls where there is clearly an obvious goal-scoring chance for the team to start counter-attacking and go through. You'll remember the Chiellini and Bukayo Saka incident in the Euros. Those types of fouls where it's not actually bad enough to be a red card, but is definitely warranting more than a yellow card. Chiellini would then have to go off the pitch and they would have to play the remaining 10 minutes of the game with a man down. Now, it does beg the question, if this is going to happen with less than 10 minutes left on the game clock, then what happens? Do you just have to stay off for the rest of the game? Could you make a foul with only 80 seconds left in the game and not have to stay off for a full 10 minutes? You just go for the final 80 seconds. So it's going to be interesting to see whether players and coaches are actually choosing to make these fouls in the last 10 minutes of the game, knowing you won't have to serve a full 10-minute sin bin. And the other reason that they're introducing these is to try and bring back some respect to referees. So dissent, foul language, abusive behaviour, anything towards officials is going to warrant a blue card as well. They're hoping that players flooding around referees after decisions, that players screaming in referees' faces, as you see in the Premier League every single week, they're hoping that that will at least start to disappear or hopefully completely be eradicated by the introduction of the blue card. Now, by bringing the blue card, if 2 or 3 players crowd a referee, does that mean 2 or 3 players are going to get a blue card all at the same time? Could you have to go 10 minutes without a player on the pitch? But not just 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on how many culprits there is getting the blue card at once. Now, the blue card is going to be part of the red and yellow card system as well. So you can get a yellow card and then a blue card. They would still add together to be a red card. Or you could get 2 blue cards in the same game. That would equate to a red card as well. Now, most importantly, for most people watching this video, you're probably asking the question, is this going to filter down into grassroots football and will it affect the game? Well, actually, in some leagues across the UK and across America, this type of system has already been used, and sin bins can be a very effective way of managing behaviour, especially in children playing at the grassroots level. As we all know, children are not quite in control of their emotions in the same way that adults might be. So sometimes giving a player 5 or 10 minutes off the pitch to give the girl or boy a chance to calm down, to have a chat with their coach, to realise the errors of what they've done or what they've said, and then get back onto the pitch once their emotional volume has started to lower, then that could actually be a really beneficial thing for kids. Often, referees are very scared to give a red card to a young child because that's a very harsh punishment not only for them, but also for their team. But sometimes a yellow card or even just a warning won't be enough to dispel that behaviour and stop a player from acting up and causing issues on the pitch, especially when that comes to dissent, foul and abusive language, or anything where they're really making the life difficult for the referee. Now, it also begs the question, will that also be given to parents and to coaches if they're not following the rules too? It'd be interesting to see if any parents or coaches get sent away from the pitch for 10 minutes to calm down, go get themselves a coffee, and maybe come back when things are a little bit easier. Now, the huge benefit to having these blue cards in the system, especially at grassroots football, is, like we mentioned, giving kids an opportunity to calm down, go away from the pitch for 5-10 minutes, and just make sure that when they come back onto the pitch, they're not as likely to either cause damage to themselves or others by making reckless tackles or doing anything silly. It's also a lesser punishment where clubs can be given fines for red cards and yellow cards. Maybe a blue card system is that they're allowed back onto the pitch without a fine being put into place because they're given a second chance at it. And like any good coach knows that every kid does deserve a second chance. They all make mistakes. They sometimes get a little bit emotional in the heat of a competitive game. But that doesn't mean that they're necessarily a bad kid. It might just mean that they've lost a bit of emotional control. They can regain that with some time off the pitch and then come back into the game. Now, when it comes to the professional game, is it a good idea? Well, it could actually make things a little bit more difficult for referees, because then where's the line between a blue card and a yellow card and a red card? And is it actually just going to turn into a blue card every single time instead of giving yellow cards if it's more of a punishment to make sure that players are doing things correctly? And then does VAR come into that, where VAR might change a yellow card into a blue card or a blue card into a red card? again, those grey areas that VAR are trying to fix at the moment in the professional game, sometimes all it does is muddy the waters, adding more and more and more opinions, camera angles, and people into the mix. Now, the blue card isn't guaranteed to be coming to all football just yet. It is currently in the trial process, which means that this has got to go through a trial process where the IFAB can decide that they're happy with how things have actually been carried out in the trials. They'll take feedback from coaches, from players, from referees, and then after a long trial process, then they can bring it into the game. So it could still be a while before we actually see blue cards giving out in leagues like the Premier League or the top leagues in the world. And then, as always the case, once the professional game takes something on, it usually filters down then into grassroots football. But I'm personally quite an advocate with kids to be doing this already. If you've got a kid where you know that they're losing a bit of emotional control, you know that the scoreline's going against them, and you can see that they're bubbling up underneath, and it's probably going to cause some sort of issue later in the game, then take them off for 5-10 minutes, have a chat with them, let them calm down, and maybe just take them out of the heat of that battle before you put them back on into the game. So whilst it might not be the referee giving a blue card, I do think it's a good idea to give kids that opportunity to calm down before they go back into a game. Now, what do you guys think? Is a blue card going to ruin football? Is it going to improve it? Is it going to claw back some of the respect that referees have been asking for a long, long time? Or is it a waste of time? Is it one of those fads that won't really work, won't be implemented properly? I do think the main thing that this all boils down to is where the referees apply it properly, stick to it, and actually make sure that if they want respect, they need to make sure they use these cards effectively to regain it back. But we've seen it before where the Referees Association have introduced rule changes at the start of the year, like, say, if there's too much hustling and tussling at corners, then they will give lots of penalties away. And that sometimes lasts 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden it disappears. It starts happening again. They find it's too hard to introduce in a professional game. There's too much at stake in the Premier League, so then it actually doesn't happen. So will this be the case with the blue card? Let us know in the comments your thoughts, guys. I'd love to hear exactly what you think. I'll drop you a comment back to anybody. If you've got a discussion point or a topic you want to talk about, just let me know. See you soon, guys. Bye-bye.